jitsu. When I hit you, then I split you.
What up?
What's up, my man?
The usual, man.
Yeah, I'm all right. Another day,
Yeah.
another day of false hopes and no promises.
There you go. That's kind of what a lot of people have been seeing across the board, especially small business owners, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting hammered over the head. I mean, it's a little disheartening being a small business owner and having, zero answers for anything. And, it's frustrating. It's just frustrating because, I know me, especially as like, I guess I'd never say I'm an entrepreneur. Or, I've said it, but like, I don't really think of myself as an entrepreneur. I'm just a guy that likes to do jiu-jitsu, and I was, blessed enough to, work really hard and make a living at it and not really ever have to get a real job, as people would say. But it just sucks seeing, 16 years of hard work, that could be taken away in, 2-3 months of people just, and you don't even know. You're saying 2 months right now, 3 months, but, they originally told us the curve. We flattened the curve, and then they extended it. We didn't flatten the curve, and now they're moving the goalpost, and they're saying until we get vaccines, and then they move the goalpost again until our kids are sent back to school in, plexiglass bubbles. Like, what the fuck is going on here, man?
Yeah. Gonna start making those clean suits for kids now. That's it.
Yeah, I know, but like, I don't know anybody who wants their child to grow up in a world like that.
Yeah.
I know
I think it's. I was thinking like it's easy for me as like the consumer on the consumer end to be like, oh man, like when's my gym gonna open up so I can go train, or like when's my barber gonna open up to go this, or when's my favorite bagel shop gonna open up so I can go get myself like a fucking sandwich. But it's also I gotta kind of take myself back and look, especially like all these businesses I'm talking about. These are all friends of mine who own these businesses. And it's trying to put myself in their position and be like, all right, well, yeah, granted, these are things I want, but this is someone's livelihood here. This is someone who's taken something from nothing and built something up here, and it's kind of heartbreaking, man, to see this.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's a little tough all around, because people want to support the local businesses, and there's a lot of people that want to do that, and there's a lot of people that want to open up. But then, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't care. They said, money over, don't choose money over lives, and it's like, you're killing more people, than the virus is at this point. If this continues to go longer, and everybody's, oh, you can't say that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can, because I'm living it.
Yeah.
And like we said, we've talked about it, and there's been a consistent number of like, okay, yeah, there's a lot. They're saying 90 deaths in 3 to 5 months, and that's super high. And if we didn't stay at home and all that other stuff, it's like, listen, a lot of people die from a lot of things at all times. And I know it can sound heartless, but like I was looking at numbers today, like, an exuberant amount of people die every year of tuberculosis, and we don't shut it down. An exuberant amount of people die of, like multiple things that are way higher than this, and we don't shut it down. And, it's not being heartless. It's just, taking your emotion out of it and looking at raw numbers and raw facts. And, some people are capable of doing that, and other people are not capable of doing that. And that's the people with the loudest mouths pushing the craziest agendas right now. So, and like I said, everybody can have their own thoughts and opinions, and I'm okay with that. And, we can agree to disagree on stuff. But when you start telling me that you want to shoot a microchip in my arm, and I need to be mandatory vaccine, and my kids need to go to school in a bubble, like, that's just not happening. So that's one of the things that we can't, I can't personally stand by and think about. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's a little creepy, bro. Like, everybody's always like, oh, Black Mirror, and Handmaid Tales. Like, this is what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even the guy Black Mirror was like, yo, I gotta like not put out the next season because like it's getting too real, and like I gotta figure out something else because everything that we were gonna say is happening right now. Like,
Yeah, it's kind of scary too when you start to look at like these kind of far-fetched shows and movies. Even like when do you ever see like Idiocracy?
I haven't seen Idiocracy. I've heard about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to explain the genre, but I'm sure like people like listening have seen it. But that's another movie that's kind of really far-fetched. But then when you kind of see the current state we're in, it's very similar in a
Mm-hmm.
sense. So yeah, that's it's kind of nerve-wracking when you see that and you think like someone who was ever drawing this up or thinking the concept for the show was thinking like something this could never happen, and then all of a sudden now they're starting to see it kind of come to fruition. So it's kind of like shit. Like I kind of got to reel it back a little bit because all this crazy stuff I'm saying is actually
Yeah.
happening. I kind of don't want to freak people out. So
Yeah, well, I mean, like, listen, we've had this conversation multiple times. Like, everybody, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, oh, you're a tinfoil hatter. Well, like, shit, man, everything they've been saying for the past 5 years is happening in real time right now, and everybody still thinks, oh, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. It's not a conspiracy if the shit's happening.
yeah,
And it's proven. So, I mean,
yeah,
we could go down that rabbit hole all day, but, I mean, like, at the end of the day, who in this country thought that they would shut it down? Who in this country thought that
yeah,
they would create mandatory vaccines? Who in this country thought that they would just be arresting small business owners? Who in this country thought that they would be arresting customers going into small business owners for working out?
yeah.
Like, and this is not just as a gym owner. This is just as an American and a human being that wants to have a good life for his family. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know how you can sit around and say this is normal or this is going to be the new normal. And like people are like, oh, the new normal. What the fuck is the matter with you? This is not normal. Hanging out with your friends, hugging your friends, like going out for something to eat, like being able to run your own business and provide your family without somebody tracking you, trace tracking you. Like, come on, man. I just saw some shit
Yeah.
before me and you got on here live, like, Apple's new operating system is because like every time like you call me or somebody calls me and it's like, oh, I go to like use the face recognition on my phone, it won't recognize my face because I got a mask on.
Yeah.
So now they're making it where they can recognize it with your face, and it's part of, with your mask on, and it's part of some tracing app or some shit they were saying. I didn't look into it too deep, so please do not castrate me on the logistics of this. But like, there's a lot of little stuff being passed. Like me and you saw, like CDC, like they didn't make an announcement. They just put this plan out there about putting kids in boxes. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
And you don't think that should be front page news?
No.
And then there's some people that are totally okay with that, which scares me even more.
Yeah.
Like it's scary.
Yeah, man. It's I'm at the point like my daughter's not old enough to be in school yet, but I'm thinking like shit when she's ready for like daycare and anything like that. Is
Is she going to be allowed in daycare?
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
at this
that was
point,
the
it's
first
like
thing
they're
I thought.
talking about like not even allowing people in daycare.
Yeah.
Like what are you supposed to do if you're supposed to work and you can't? You don't have the luxury. I mean, I say the luxury, but like you can't work from home. Like it is a luxury at some point. We've talked about this.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, and trust me, like now that I am working primarily from home, like yeah, like I said, it's hard, to kind of do that, and like, and for me, like fortunately, it's like both my wife and I are home, so we can it's kind of like a tag team effort. But there are people out there who have multiple kids, have two, three, four, like kids, and they're working from home primarily. So that's trying to play, career person and teacher and child care specialist all at once, and like it's tough.
Oh yeah, dude. Like I said, like I'm a family of five.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, I'm the sole provider, and Rand works at the local daycare, but like, if she didn't do that and I wasn't, I didn't have a fluid of a schedule, like we'd be in a real tough spot with and even now, like childcare, like what happens if my business can't open and she can't go back to her work too? Like we're both in industries that are going to be in phase 4, and we're a family of 5.
Yeah.
What do you do? You know, like,
Yeah.
what do you do?
Yeah.
So,
There's not even a plan or any data to support, like, to give you options essentially.
oh, well, I mean,
So
according to Governor Cuomo, I can just go get an essential job because my livelihood's not essential. So, it's like, listen, I'm too old and fat to be a cop now. I don't have the years to put in to be a doctor now because I'm almost 40. So,
yeah,
it's like, I don't understand. We're in a country that you could, they tell everybody you could be president if you want to. Now you're telling me you can't be anything unless it's essential. So what is that? That's the Soviet Union. That's communism.
yeah,
That's socialism. Like,
yeah.
oh, you could work for the state.
You trust me, man. As someone who's trained for 10 plus years, and you've trained longer than me, I can say it's essential. But I mean, but what
Oh
do I
yeah,
know?
no, dude. I mean, that's the whole thing when it comes down to it. Like, jujitsu is essential for the people who train jujitsu. And I know, like,
Yeah,
some people can't even like fathom that. They're like, oh, you see a lot of people like, oh, just work out at home. Those are the same people that don't work out ever.
yeah,
So and people that are diehard gym people, and then even people that are the 2 time a weekers or 3 time a weekers, everybody will tell you, like, my head just feels better, my headspace feels better after a workout.
yeah,
Like, we've talked about this. It's like that primal thing of, like, running, hunting for your food, going around, getting that out,
yeah,
like having to survive, having to do that. Like, we don't do that because we live in the comfort, and
yeah,
that's the way for us to still get to that primal instinct, you know? So, I mean, it's there
yeah,
for a reason because that's how all our ancestors survived. Like, if you're on this planet still, your bloodline had to do some crazy shit to be here.
yeah.
Right? Like, I think we could all agree, like, like, and I don't even get it because some people are soft, man. They might have rid on the coattails of other people to stay alive,
Yeah,
but like, it is what it is. But like, everybody that's on this planet, black, white, purple, green, male, female, gender cis, gender X, whoever you are, your family's bloodline fought pretty freaking hard over the years to genetically make it this far.
oh yeah,
Whether you're poor or rich, like, your family got here somehow,
yeah. It's pretty hardcore when you think about that.
right? Yo,
Yeah.
dude, I'm deep, man. I'm not just a punch facer. I think about stuff.
Uh,
So,
yeah.
but
Speaking of that, I was even like looking online today just for kind of like shits and giggles. I was like, all right. I'm like, when's granted I haven't even really trained as except for you. I mean, like, when's like the next tournament coming up? Like, when's like the next opportunity? I mean, granted, who knows when those will kind of start back up, like the next like tournament or so where I can kind of compete. Because now, I mean, I'm not like a full-time competitor, but there's still that kind of piece of me. It's like, I was doing one or two every other month. So kind of looking to get back in there, man. I'm kind of itching.
well, listen. I mean, we could go into the whole competition realm. It's one of those things that's a unsure thing right now. I mean, like, you can't even get into train. Like, when are they going to let that? We've been to grappling tournaments. It's pretty crazy, right? So,
Oh
there's a
yeah,
mass amount of people everywhere. The bathrooms are gross. Anybody who's been to a sporting event with mass amount of people knows how that goes. Now you got a bunch of competitors that feel like they're going to throw up and shit their pants all day. It's
yep.
like one of those things where it's just like, are they going to even allow those type of environments?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see it when they do allow it, it's going to be significantly different because, like I said, like you obviously cornered me in a couple of tournaments, so you can see like those gymnasiums or rec centers or wherever they do them, like you're crammed, like you're depending on the event, like you're shoulder to shoulder with people all day, eight
All
o'clock
day.
up until like 5 o'clock, and you're warming up and you're breathing heavy and you're running around, everyone's sweating and hitting each other. It's just who knows how that could change.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that we got to be realist about, but I mean, it's so hard too because, like, there's no sports going on right now either. So, like,
Yeah,
even the people that get paid the most amount of money, they're putting the brakes on. So, like,
yeah,
local guys like us, like, do they even give a shit if we ever do that again? I mean, the way things are looking
yeah,
right now doesn't look like it, but on the positive note, because we're doom and glooming ourselves right here, right now. On the positive note, I mean, it's kind of hard in the wave, but we are two positive guys, so we're
Oh
just
yeah.
realist. But like, I mean, competition, it definitely, it brings out the best in some people. It brings out the worst in some people. I mean, I've
Yeah.
had multiple experiences with competition from a younger aspect. Like I started competing when I was like 6 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I competed up till I was about 21 ish. And then I haven't competed in Christ 15 years. I mean,
Wow.
I kind of slid into that coaching spot. And I was just
Yeah.
a better coach than a competitor as I started getting older, I guess. Or I mean, I really didn't give myself as much of a chance because I just kind of fell into the coaching role because I had more knowledge in certain things than the guys I was training with, where I could help them get to the next level. Which is
Sharing that knowledge,
yeah,
man.
which is fine because that's what I've always been a martial arts instructor, even since I was little. Like I started teaching the women's adult weapons class in karate when I was 8 years old. So I would teach the Saturday
Wow.
morning adult women's class, and there'd be this little 8 year old with giant ears and a rat tail teaching, teaching the women's weapons class. So I've taught for a long time, and that was always my passion, was teaching. I competed because they wanted me to compete, and I did enjoy competing, but I got a sour taste of competing in my mouth when I was young. I went to the Junior Olympics in Tallahassee, Florida, and I was competing and whatever, and I ended up taking fourth in the country at my age and
Wow.
weight class. But I should have, everybody says I should have won the gold, but like literally number 1, 2, and 3, they were all from the same school. All their instructors were the judges, and it was like, dude, I did better than them, and I got slighted. And
Yeah.
ever since then, I've always had a sour taste in my mouth for competing. So I didn't compete for a long time. I didn't compete for like 8 years. And then I started competing a little bit again. And then, like I did one jujitsu. I've only done one jujitsu tournament when I was like 20 something. And, I was winning, the first 4 minutes of the match. And then I got caught with a choke. And then, after that, I just really started coaching. I wasn't
Yeah.
competing as much. I was just coaching because then we had guys starting to fight and they didn't know how to strike. So I was teaching them how to strike, and we were all kind of coming up the same jujitsu ladder at the same time. So I just kind of like took the seat of like, okay, like some of these guys are younger than me. Like it's their turn. Even though I was young, I'm an old soul. So I kind of just
Yeah.
took like that like father, you know, older brother figure, and just took that coaching stance. I don't regret it, at all, because I've had a lot of, good guys, come under me. But yeah, man, that's just kind of my story, how I've been, in the competition realm. So
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I had my purple belt for probably 4 months, and I just moved back to Jersey. I just moved in with my girlfriend, who's now wife and mother of my children. So I was like, all right, I'm purple belt now. Like I got to take it seriously. Like I should probably try and do a couple like competitions. So I found an organization. It's in Jersey. It's called UGA, United Grapplers Association. So I'm like, all right, it's like local. It's like South Jersey. I'm like, I'm gonna do gi no gi and like just give it a shot, get out there and kind of put myself out there. So I remember like getting there, same thing. You get like those pre jitters. I was warming up, and like I remember like my wife came because she's like I want to see it. I want to see what this is all about. That was like the first and last tournament she's ever gone to, just because she just thought it was too violent. So now she doesn't go anymore. Um, but then actually my boss too at the time decided that he wanted to come. I guess he had lived down the street from the venue. But I remember um I got there. First round was no gi. Took second in no gi, so I was feeling pretty pumped. And then my gi bracket, I was looking around, and they call my name with the loudspeaker. So in my head, I'm assuming like, okay, like my bracket's ready to go. So I throw my gi on, walk over the table. I'm like, Drew Ganther signing in, and the guy was just like, oh, you have nobody in your bracket. So I'm like, ah, shit. So I'm like, all right. I'm like, so am I done for the day? And he's just like, well, he's like, this is kind of the situation we're in. He's like, we actually have a brown belt. He's 20 pounds heavier than you, and he was supposed to do a super fight, but his opponent didn't show up. And I thought, I'm like, okay, and would you want to fight him? So at this point, I'm thinking like, all right, well, I'm here. The gi's already on. I'm like, why the hell not? So, about like maybe like 25 minutes later, they kind of line us up, and this like the venue was kind of clearing out, but there's still some people who came just to watch super fights. So him and I had about I think it was like a 10-minute match. He ended up beating me with the leg lock. But after that, I was kind of like, I'm like, all right, like, you know what? I came, had a pretty decent match with the brown belt as a newly like minted purple belt. So at that point, I try to kind of keep it like my pace kind of current, do like something. A tournament came up in Jersey, I would do it. Like you've obviously been to like a number of tournaments and that cornered me like gi and no gi. So yeah, that was I think that was my first kind of foray really into like competing. So it was it's a little unique more than others, so but I thought it was
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like it's tough, man. Competition is tough. Like you got to deal with those jitters, you got to deal with your anxiety, you got to deal with, the unknowns, you got to deal depending if you're cutting weight or not. So like it's like one of those things, man, where it's like it's a very nerve-wracking thing. And you have a lot of people that will like literally, be like, oh, just get out there and fight. Like there's a big difference between getting into a bar fight and getting into a planned fight. Okay, you're
Yeah.
making a decision. Like it's silly, but like a lot of people don't think about it. Like a bar fight. Like you don't have time to get scared. You don't have the time to
Yeah.
think about the repercussions, or a street fight or whatever. You don't have time to think about it. So it's like go time. So there's a lot of guys out there like, oh, I do this, I do that. I've been in bar fights, blah blah blah. And it's like, bro, you're making a date to fight somebody. You're like,
Yeah.
hey, I'll see you in like 6 weeks at 6 o'clock over underneath over in the arena over there. And you're like, okay, now you got 6 weeks to think about that. Can I lose? Can I get
Yep.
knocked out in front of my friends? Is my family going to see me twitching and spitting out my teeth? Like, dude, like, or even if you're just talking about grappling, like, am I going to get choked unconscious and be like, shaking in front of, 30, or 1,000 people? Or dude, even if it's 20 people, that's more than most people. So it's just like
Yeah.
there's so
Yeah.
many variables. Or like, am I going to go in there and get my leg snapped? Like, you're putting yourself at physical risk every time you do it. So it is a very
Yeah.
anxiety driven deal, and some people deal with that really well, and some people don't deal with that very well. I mean, I've trained a lot of guys that I've had guys that like they might not be world beaters in the gym, and guys will get the better, and there's guys that are way better than them. But like once the lights come on, they just perform. And then I'll have guys
Yeah.
that can perform in the gym and nobody can touch them in the gym. And it's like once those spotlights go on, they can't perform. So, I mean,
Yeah.
every individual is different, and you got to deal with those situations. I mean, I know myself personally, like I had a lot of time, especially as I got older. I don't know what it was. It could have been something, mental block or whatever. Like I would get like such bad anxiety. Like I just didn't even want to compete because I'd just be like freaking
Yeah.
myself out for no fucking reason. And, I did it even as a kid. Like I used to throw up before every tournament, throw up.
Wow.
And, from the time I was, 6 till I was 13, throw up. And, I fought in the nationals, I fought in the junior Olympics, and like, I competed and I was a state champion multiple times. And I was this multiple times. But like, dude, just getting in there. And then like, once I got the jitters out and I did all right, like, shit, man, like you don't win everyone. Like there's been times I took, 8th place when they used to give ribbons for that shit. And I'm like, what is an 8th place ribbon? Like, what the fuck do I even have this thing for? Like
Yeah.
it's one of those things. But, like I know myself personally, like I had a lot of trouble with that, and, I don't know if that was part of why I went to the coaching role, because I do better. But like, even as a coach, man, I still get nervous for my guys. Like they're my children.
Yeah.
Like, like I could say like every single time, and I've been doing this for years, I can get into there and like I'm fine the whole ride down or the whole flight, depending where we're at, like whatever we're doing. And then it's like as soon as I start getting closer to where the arena is or whatever it is, like you start feeling like that energy, man. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like, like you're walking into literally the lion's lair, because like unless you've been backstage at like fights and stuff, it's like caged animals. It's like caged lions back there. The guys are pacing. Some guys are like real quiet, got their headphones on and just like bobbing bobbing their head, doing their thing. Then you got the other guys over there pounding their chest, yelling, shadow boxing for 5 hours. And like, it's like, how are you not tired yet? Like, you've been bouncing around, and like, they can't, just because the energy is like unreal. And you see it at grappling tournaments too. Like, you got those guys that are like walking around, bobbing their heads, singing to themselves, slapping themselves in the face. Then you got the other guys sleeping in the corner on their bags. And it's like, everybody deals with it differently, but it's just like such a level of like, it's going to war. It's going to battle, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I feel that
I
as a
found
coach,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I found, whether, I have an awesome performance, or even if I have like, I'm always going to critique myself, whether I get a gold medal or, I get a bronze medal. I found with each performance though, like I've become like that much better for it. Like, like if I compete on a Saturday, like when I come in that Monday, like I find like my become that much more focused. Like now I found those holes in my game and I know what I need to work on. Now when I'm drilling, it's easy when you're training very frequently to kind of go through the motions sometimes. Now when I'm actually drilling, I find, especially after competing, like the previous weekend, like everything's hyper focused essentially. Like now I feel like I'm like moving with purpose as opposed to just trying to like warm up. And then, I
Well,
find even that, like, going into like, even like going into work, just kind of walking around, like I feel different because I'm thinking about like what the person sitting next to me did this weekend versus what I did this weekend.
yeah, I know, right?
It's crazy, and like a lot of people don't, like I work with, don't even know that I really train. So
It's like
you
Fight
got this
Club.
kind of, yeah. It's
Yeah,
like, you don't talk about Fight Club. Like I go in and, I almost got this kind of swag. Like you and I talk about it. Like, once you're trained, that you're a pretty good athlete. You got this different kind of, you kind of walk differently too. Like, it's this confidence that,
oh,
it's
we
really hard to explain, man.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. It's like it gives you this underlying swag, but there's a fine line between cocky and confident, and we try to
Hmm.
walk it nicely.
Yeah.
Like
Yes, sir.
that's the biggest thing is like there's a fine line between it where you could be an arrogant douche or you're just confident, and you got to
Yeah.
walk that line very, very carefully because you can always step over either way. So that's why you got to try to be humble in your training and everything else. But like, no, I mean, it's definitely, it brings your focus into perspective when you go through a battle and something works and something fails on you miserably. So that's how
Yeah.
you got to bring it back into perspective when you do hit the gym again. Like, okay, I performed really well. I executed these techniques very well. I could do a little bit better on this, and this. And I've done this with all my competitors over the years. Like even, I've had, a handful of guys have, excellent performances, but every single one of those guys that even have had an excellent performance, the first thing they come out and they're like, yeah, I did really good, but coach, I should have done this, this, and this. And it's like, I'm not dogging them, but I'm like, we know the standard that we're setting when we train somebody for something. Or we know the standards that we expect from ourselves. So it's okay to, be critical of yourself in a positive light. And not everybody, world beats it every time. And sometimes it's like, dude, I mean, I've had guys that had a fantastic training camps, were in great shape, whether it was a tournament or a fight, and, they just came out and you get caught, dude. Sometimes you come out, you get caught with a punch, and it doesn't matter if you're in great shape and, you have a better skill set. You get knocked out, you get knocked out. You get put to sleep, you get put to sleep. You get caught in a triangle, you get caught in a triangle, man. Like it happens.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's the nature of the beast, and that's the test you take, and that's the chances you take doing those things,
Yeah. Yeah. And I've also found it too with like, drilling, not just drilling and, regular training, but also found when it actually gets to my rolls too. Like I found it also helps me settle, some folks, maybe when you're newer, you're kind of focused on like, trying to get submission and this and that. But I find like now, you know, even when I'm not competing like actively, when it comes to actual rolling, like my rolls are a lot more focused. Like it's not so much just trying to like rack up subs on whoever I'm training with because that doesn't help me. But now it's actually like properly securing positions and properly transitioning and really kind of setting up a game plan and really help trying to dictate a match. So it's like those elements you find your sessions, especially they become a lot more like quality sessions. Your training becomes a
Well, you're
lot
training
better in a
with a
sense.
purpose, and I mean that's
Yeah,
the whole thing. It depends on the purpose that you're going to train with. So, like if you're training
yeah,
for a competition, a lot of times you're going to have a game plan. You're gonna train a certain skill sets, but you're not gonna learn anything like giant world changing most of the time. Most of the time, there's always exceptions to the rule. Most of the time, anything world changing in your game from that point of period to the competition, depending on how much time you give yourself. So, grappling competitions, depending on how far out they're planned for, are way different than like, a 6 week to 8 week to 12 week fight camp where you have a little bit more time. But even once you start getting into that 6 weeks, like, most of the camps we used to do were like six weeks to 2 months, for the local stuff. And, even grappling tournaments, depending on what it is, like you're going to work on certain skill sets, but you're just going to really sharpen the sword. You should have a game plan. Your game's already like in place. You fight a certain way. Our job is just to sharpen that sword as best as possible to make sure that every time you swing it, it cuts deep. And that's what you're going to do. Now, are we going to make little tweaks here and there? If you're having a common mistake or you're getting caught in something, yeah, we got to really work on that position because that's your vulnerability. We try to double down on your strengths and really double down on fixing, the key holes in your game for that time. When you're not training for something like right now, that's when you really have the time to build the structure, build the things. When you don't have a tournament or anything coming up, that's the time that you work on that, section of your half guard, or you work on your leg lock defense, or you work down on your takedown sequences. Because once you're in a camp, you got to work with what the tools you got. Like the tools that you have to work with them, and you might pick up one or two things. Cause I have guys that were savants that like you could show them something once and they get it. I have other guys where I showed them the same technique for 4 years and then they finally get it year 5. So, everybody's different. You got to know what you're working with. And then, you can't put, can't put everybody in the same box. Not everybody trains the same way. Not everybody reacts the same way. Not everybody's coachable the same way. Some guys are really like, coaches, you'll hear coaches talk about like a player's coach or a coach's player or whatever. They're good listeners. They'll sacrifice and they go hard, wholeheartedly with whatever you do. And then you got, your stubborn knuckleheads who always think they do know better and, that they know what's best for them. And some do and some don't. I've seen it go both ways. The guys that I usually see that are the most successful at a lot of levels are guys that are really good, are open to suggestions, and fully trust their coaches. And they're humble in defeat, humble in victory. Even the best guys in the world, like there's certain things where they're capable of doing where they might say, hey, coach, like this is how I need to do it because this is what's working for me. And that coach has to be, receptive to that as well as like, okay, see the strengths, see the weaknesses of your guys. And some guys, what separates them is they have the ability to ad lib, and you can't coach that sometimes where they have that such high fight IQ that they can make that decision immediately. They can make the switch. They can make, the adjustment and the game time adjustment to be able to see those openings, see those opportunities, etc. So, that can't be taught. Sometimes that's just one of those things that has to be, that's a God-given gift right there.
Yeah, definitely. I think about too, like, kind of looking at like, the overarching theme, like when I'm training and sparring, even competing. I think the one thing that always kind of pulls me back to it is like the idea of I think you and I we talk about this pretty frequently. It's just the concept of like presence and being presence, because that's something I've always kind of struggled with. Not so much in like rolling and competing, because that's one of those situations where like it forces you, like no matter what you're doing, like you're forced into being present. It's more so in like when I think about like my daily life, like when I'm walking around, when I'm at home, like working, or whenever I get back to when I'm in the office, it's just the idea of being present in anything that you do at all times of the day. Because
I think that's a big thing. I know me and you have had this conversation, whether it was leading up to your competitions or just talking about life in general. And that's kind of what jiu-jitsu brings to the table and martial arts brings to the table, nonetheless, because like we talk about jiu-jitsu a lot, but like I was a striker first. And I have a striking background, and kickboxing does the same thing, and all martial arts, depending on whatever you're doing, whether it's taekwondo, jeet kune do, kung fu, like there is that's the one aspect that I think draws a lot of people too, is like you have to be present. So like even if you're into meditating or yoga or any of that stuff, the one big thing that's a common denominator with all that stuff is being present, being in the moment, being mindful, and slowing down life and just focusing on one thing, because our brains have that chatter on all the time. I know my brain does. Like, sometimes I can't sleep because you can't turn it off, So sometimes you got to take those deep breaths. You got to hone in. And for me, martial arts does that because like it's moving meditation. And I've also done sitting meditation and still meditation as a kid coming up through karate. Like part of our training at the end of every class, like you meditated for 5 to 10 minutes to, get your body in and get yourself right and get yourself centered. And, I did that for years as a kid, and then I got away with it. And then I got back into it in my 20s a little bit. And then I got away from it. And then I got back into it. I kind of go in and out of that. But the one constant is when I train, jujitsu or kickboxing, like you get in those matrix moments where it's like everything slows down. You can see it, and you're just in the zone, you're in that groove, you're in your lane, and you're just on cruise control. And, that's a pretty amazing feeling when you can get to that point. It's like being in that flow meditative state,
Mm-hmm.
So, and it happens with the training that we do and whatnot. That's why we're such big advocates of it. And especially in a time of chaos. And, we've talked about it before where everything feels so unbalanced. That's what it's supposed to do, is bring you back to that center point. And, we're not able to do it. We're not able to get back to that center point, and it's rough. So, you have to either do the self meditation or solo meditation, and it works for some people and it doesn't work for some people. And, for me, like I need that, like, we train together, and I don't care what anybody says. Like if you work out, whatever it is, CrossFit, I don't fucking care. Whatever it is. Once you get that like, out.
Yeah.
Bro, like we look at each other and we're like, thank God half the weight of the world has been lifted off my shoulders just for 30 minutes.
Yep.
And then like it's like, all right, now we approach everything else with a clearer mind.
Yeah.
And not as angry or not as, irritable, because I know everybody's been locked inside with their loved one. So everybody gets a little snippy here and there, myself included. And it's just like, even to just get out and get that, like, endorphin dump out and everything else, like you're just like, half the weight of the world just went off my shoulders.
Yeah.
I still got the other half on the other one, but it is what it is. At least I got to lighten the load a little bit for the time being.
Yeah, and I think it's so easy, when I think about, just the current situation, like it's so easy to kind of, think about the past, think about, how things were simpler. And then also you also start thinking about the future, like, and then, there's also the fear of the future. Like, what's the quote that's on the wall in your gym?
Oh, yes.
You show it to me every single time I'm there.
Don't let the fear of something that may happen make nothing happen.
Yes. So you can constantly bounce back, and it's easy to constantly bounce back and forth, like how things were to how things could be. That this present, like that moment of you being present, actually where you are, can just completely just in my experience, just kind of slip away. And I find I'm constantly trying to pull myself back. I'm like, all right, like what can I control, or what can I, right now that's going to keep me from dwelling on like, oh, this is how things used to be when we were in a simpler time, versus like, oh man, what's tomorrow going to hold? Like, what's, and obviously, you are thinking some aspect of what the future could hold, and, what's best for your family and whatnot, like, save your business and your home and everything else. But I think it's also important too to kind of really kind of sit in those moments when you are home, with your family, when you are home, like, talk to your family and friends or whatnot, and just really kind of, sitting in those moments. Like that's another piece that can help, because if you're constantly teetering back and forth between past and future, the past, future,
dude,
you're just gonna stretch yourself out. You're almost like, almost living some type of like time warp or something. You're not being real.
Yeah, no, dude. I said it to you earlier today. I'm like, I feel like I'm living in the fucking Twilight Zone. because and I agree 100% with you, because like there's times where like I'm just sitting on the deck with my kids and they're laughing and they're doing this and there's not a care in the world, and like you get lost in that moment and you're just like, this is awesome, this is what life's about. But then all of a sudden you go on the social media or you hear the radio or the TV and everybody's doom gloom, don't touch each other, don't talk to each other, don't, like, what the fuck. You ever think about that dude on YouTube that gives out free hugs, that black dude?
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking
yep.
about, right? Like what the fuck does he do with his life right now, that poor bastard?
Yeah.
Like that motherfucker, his thing was like, I'm gonna hug everybody and I love everybody. And that's the craziest thing. The same people that love those videos and say, look how he's bringing everybody together, right now are the same people that say, stay the fuck away, throw a mask on, and how dare you try to hug me.
Yeah.
And they were the same people a year ago that were like, this guy is the greatest guy in the world. And it just baffles my mind on how those same people can change that fucking quickly.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about it many a times, like how I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I don't understand, because I think it's just that my mind's not built like other people's.
Mm-hmm.
And I've known that since I was little. Like I'm not, and people, I don't even want to say it because then people get like turned off, but like, people are easily persuaded and don't question anything.
Mm-hmm.
They can just be turned one way to another with a flick of switch. Mm-hmm. And it just baffles me because it scares me, because like, are those people making decisions?
Yeah.
For the rest of us that have our own thought process, and the rest of us that aren't scared of everything, and the rest of us that want to do our thing, and like nobody's saying the virus isn't real. The coronavirus has been around for years and years and years. It's not a new thing, guys. Like, is it a new strain? But there's a new strain of flu every year.
Yeah, true.
Oh, you can't say that.
Yeah.
It's not the same. Well,
no,
technically the flu is more deadlier over the span of time.
Yeah, trust me. They're always updating that shot every year, man.
Well, that's the thing. They've eradicated a bunch of it, but there's also a bunch of it that's mutated. Yeah. So, like, you're never going to kill it all. Like, we live on a planet where there's bacteria and viruses. If you don't want to live on that planet, then you need to go to Mars.
Yeah.
And if you ain't part of SpaceX, you ain't getting there, bro.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah, me neither. But Elon Musk, like, he ain't fucking around. That motherfucker wants to be on space.
No,
but wants to be in Mars. So it's one of those things, man. It's like we're in some weird times, man.
Yeah, and all I can do, I mean, I on my end, I hope for the best. Not just for myself and my family, but also my friends, and especially my friends who own small businesses. Not just you, but anyone else I know who has like gyms and barbershops and restaurants and whatnot. It's like because the last thing I want is for anyone I know to lose their life's work.
Oh, dude, like, I mean, that's just a given. Like, listen, and we're all good people, man.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Everybody, for the most part, there's a lot of good people. I mean, we've been on this earth, I'm not super old, but I've been on it long enough to know that there's good people on this earth and there's a lot of shitty people on this earth. And we have to coexist with each other. But when, certain people are making real shitty decisions for good people and making good people into criminals and making good people into being scared. And, that's the other thing that, like, even these people that are scared of certain things, they have the right to be scared, and I support your right for that 100%. But you like, if I'm not, why are you holding me shackled? It's not the right thing to do. Like, I wouldn't hold you shackled if that's like taking a child that is frightened and putting them in front of something that's frightened and making them stand there when all you have to do is move out of the way and they can get away from it. I mean, that's as simple as I can put it, if that makes sense to you. Like, it's like you're forcing certain people to stand in front of the thing that fears them most, and all you have to do is just get out of the way and you can be okay. Yeah. Both of you could be okay. And then, you're not hurting each other, but, oh, you could get me sick. You could get my grandma. Well, dude, you could get me sick or any one of my kids sick any time of the year. If you got a communicable disease, at any point in my 37 years on this planet, you could have got me sick. So are you a terrible person because you might get me sick? And something that you don't have control over? Like, can you control when your body gets attacked by a virus?
Last time I checked, I don't think so.
Yo, if you can, though, give me that superpower because
Listen,
then we
man,
can all not
I've
get
been
sick.
like chugging like orange juice and trying to take my multivitamins and everything, anything I can like fortify my system. Like, I still get sick from time to time, so.
Well, this is the thing, man. We're healthy people. We train a lot, and we're around a lot of people where we're probably the most susceptible to get sick, and we get sick the least out of everybody. Why? Because we're updating our shit. We're staying healthy. We're staying our things. I mean, when we get run down, we all get sick. Like, it's like we said, it's nature of the beast. Because like we have kids, we get tired. Like sometimes they don't sleep, and then you go train, you get run down. Yeah, I get that aspect. People just have to be a lot more self-conscious when they're doing stuff like that. And then, eventually, like, this too shall pass. But, like, is it going to pass where we can live a normal life? Or is it going to pass where everybody's going to literally let their liberties and freedoms and normalcy get taken away of something that's not even a 0.00%, like 1%? Like, this is ridiculous. This is just ridiculous that people are, getting this crazy over this. And the other thing is like, I'm not knocking the people that are getting crazy off of it because none of us are getting real shit. None of us are getting real information. You literally, like, how many reports did you come out today seeing conflict of information from 4 different sources?
Yeah, and I am seeing,
and it's daily. It's not weekly. It's not monthly.
Yeah,
it's
you see
daily.
those multiple sources, but then when you look at, like, you and I were talking earlier about like the data points when you're looking at them, like the data points are pretty much the same. It's just that information surrounding it is different. So when you're looking at the hard data and it's all the same, then it's like, then where do you go from there when you have information around it that doesn't really support it too well?
Well, because this is the other thing, and people are saying we're making, our decisions on hard facts and hard data. Okay. So even if you take worst case scenario right now, right? There's, 325 million humans, documented humans in the United States, right? And we're at 90,000 deaths. Now, everybody's going to go, oh, you heartless son of a bitch. Every life matters. Every life this. No shit. Like, no shit. Why are we even contemplating that subject? Well, you could save a life. Well, you could save a life too by not getting, like we said, getting in your car because you're a shitty driver and you threaten my family's life every time you do. Or you could save a life by putting down a beer because every time you drink, you're an asshole. Or you could save a life for. We could do this all day. We could split hairs like this all day. But then you're talking about, so whatever. Getting back to the numbers, like if you do simple math, like I'm not a fucking genius, Drew, but like if you divide 90,000 by 325 million, what's the number you come up with? 0.00001 something percent. Okay, so I know 90,000 is a lot, and then people are gonna be like, "That's more people that died in the Vietnam War, and that's more people that." I understand that. I sympathize with that. Like I said, I've had family members who have died from this virus, so I am not a heartless son of a bitch. But like people are saying, look at the data, look at the data, look at the data. The same people that are making decisions on feelings are saying, look at the data, and it's 90. If you're looking at the data, it doesn't make sense then. If you're going to make a database decision, it doesn't make sense. You're saying look at the data, but then you're still making an emotional decision. And nobody wins when somebody makes an emotional decision. I think anybody who's ever had a relationship with a significant other, anytime you guys make a decision based on emotions, it usually doesn't end up good.
Yeah.
So, or like, So, I mean, I think we can all agree on that. So. Whether we agree on the numbers, the facts, the data, anything, like if we make decisions based on emotion all the time, like we're all going to be a bunch of fucking messes. Like, and I'm man enough to say that. Like when I make an emotional decision, it usually does not turn out well for me. But when I make a calculated decision, and that's the thing, some people that make those calculated data decisions, it may seem cold. I know people that just make like all decisions on data, and it's like, bro, like you don't feel for that person. Like it doesn't make sense to feel for that person. I know a lot of motherfuckers that are like sociopaths, man. like they'd just be like, yep, data says this, I don't care. And you're like, you don't feel bad for that guy though? They're like, no, why should I? Because so some people are like that. Doesn't mean I don't have a heart. Doesn't mean that I'm not compassionate. Like, I am like we've talked about, like, this is what I've done for a living, helping others and doing other things. And, like I try to do my best with anybody that knows me on a personal level knows that I'm not, a heartless fuck. So, but like, there's got to be a point where like, we have to look at like real life here. Like, is this okay? Are you okay? They're talking about doing some crazy fucking shit right now. Microchipping people, mandatory vaccinating people, like you can't get on a plane and then everybody needs to have a vaccine ID card, but nobody needs it's okay to have a vaccine ID card where they're shooting foreign shit into your body, but it is not legally right to ask somebody to have an ID to vote. What the fuck? Like, we need an ID to drive. We need an ID to be at our school. We need an ID to, whatever it is. We need IDs for everything. But you don't need one to vote?
No.
Doesn't make sense. But we need to make sure that you have an ID so we know what blood type you are, what's in your body, what's not in your body, what's over here, what's over there, And it's crazy because the same people that were like, oh, my body, my choice, they're not speaking up for my body, my choice for this shit.
Yeah, I've been seeing that one a lot too, especially when it talks about the potential mandatory.
And like, listen, yeah, man. Like, I'm not for mandatory vaccines. Like, if you want to take the vaccines and you want to do it, do it. Like, I'm not going to tell nobody not to do it. That's your personal choice, man. But like, at the end of the day, vaccines, some of them work very well. Some of them don't work at all. And you're taking that chance. And even the ones that don't work as well have been tested for years and they know if they're safe or unsafe and they still give them to people, right? But now we're going to take the thing that everybody's trying to stay away from and inject it into our arm. Doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And like I see the other big thing that people are saying is like, oh, what is that? What's that shit? Trump said he was taking the hydrochloroquine or whatever. And everybody's like, it's not tested. It's not. Motherfuckers, that shit's been around for 60, 70 years. Did you know, fun fact, gin and tonic, okay, like tonic water, that was literally given to the British soldiers in rations that has chloroquine in it. Okay, because when this all started, one of my friends that's a nurse and their wife's they're both nurses. One of my students and his wife, and her brother-in-law works at like John Hopkins or one of those big hospitals. I think either John Hopkins or Dartmouth. No, it was Dartmouth, right? And he literally, this was week 2 into the thing. My buddy calls me and he goes, go pick up tonic water, but it has to have this quinine in it, which is like a derivative of hydrochloroquine or whatever it is. And he's like, start drinking that because they've been having tests all over that it really works. But then you get the media saying, oh, there's no proof. Well, there's 60 years of data on something, and you guys want to try to take something that nobody knows and we're just going to come up with, then do no testing, rush it, and then we'll do the data test after. Why not take the thing that, like, the British soldiers, getting back to my point, the tonic water, they used to give them that tonic water, and that's why, like, it was the gin and tonic, and that's why the British Army did so good conquering everybody, because they wouldn't get sick from the malaria and all that other stuff, because they've known about this quinine was very good for fighting those things, and their troops wouldn't get sick when they would go into these jungles and, like, when they took over India and like parts of Africa and everything else, and because they would drink it. And then there's another thing, I forget the other name, but scabies was like real big on the naval ships and all that stuff when they would do stuff. And there's like a certain thing, like they would call them limey bastards. And it was because they would have them take lime on the ship to prevent scabies. So then they could go and they wouldn't get sick. So the British have figured this out years ago. But people don't do their research. They don't look into that stuff and everything else. Like how many people knew that there was this quinine it's still in your tonic water today? Because I picked it up at the local liquor store as soon as he told me about it. Now it's the stuff that you mix your gin and tonic with, or tonic water. So like, it's in there. That chemical, like, I didn't know that there was a chemical in there. I thought it was just like sparkling water, But no, like the tonic and that's why they call it a tonic, because it was a thing that they would drink that had like, and each like tonic they gave them was part of like their soldier ration pack, had like one serving of the quinine to like basically like their shot, and they would just drink it, and they would drink gin and tonics.
And you know what's crazy? I have cases, literally basically
crazy,
there's
right?
cases and cases of tonic water like in my basement because my wife drinks it all the time. And I think it's crazy now because she hasn't told me that. And I have a feeling that she did know that, but she's just kind of hoarding it for herself. So I think.
Well, it has to be like a certain kind of tonic where it has like it says quinine in it, or like QU something. And what's it called? When we got it, like I literally, the only ones that had it were like the diet ones for some reason. So I grabbed like, a couple bottles of it for myself and like my mom, my sister, and like my kids. Literally, when this all started, we'd give them like a shot of that in the morning with their shot of vitamin C and vitamin D. And, me and Rand were, doing a shot of that in the morning, or drinking, half a bottle or whatever. And that's kind of how we went about our day when, we were all in full blown freak out mode. But, now we're just hydrating, eating healthy, and trying to stay active like we always do. And washing our hands and cleaning stuff. But now apparently it doesn't live on surfaces. So Clorox and Lysol just got real fucking rich off all of us.
Yeah, for no reason.
Like it comes back to the man, bro.
Jeez. Yeah, I'm not gonna check those bottles out tomorrow and see if it's got the stuff.
Yeah, it's gotta say quinine on it. But all right. Oh, what's it called? We gotta shout out to our sponsor.
Oh, Roll Junkie.
Yeah, Roll Junkie did a nice little blog on the Two Live Fools today. So if you guys want to check that out, it's on rolljunkie.com. And remember, when you guys go on the site, like they have tons of stuff from, board shorts. It's getting warmer out. They got nice T-shirts. They're going to have their Memorial Day weekend sale. So guys, check that out. They're going to have that going on. And then remember, if you guys enter promo code 2LiveFools, you get 15% off your total order. So, guys, definitely check out Roll Junkie. They're a great sponsor, good friends of mine and Drew's of the podcast, Two Live Fools. And we love them, and we can't say enough good things about their products. And they just
dropped the new Patriot T-shirt. It's the gray with a red, white, and blue logo on the back. So I gotta pick one of those up because I got barbecues this weekend. So gotta look fresh.
Oh, you got barbecues? You're allowed out? What the fuck?
Man,
why didn't you invite me, bro?
Put it out there. Now everyone's gonna know. Those probably gonna rat me out.
Hey, you ratted yourself out, bro. You dropped the dime on yourself. Whatever. You know what? More power to you. You're American. I love you, buddy.
All right, folks, go check out Roll Junkie. Go get some new gear. I believe they do also have a new gi drop. Actually, no, it did drop. Their newest gi. It's a blue and red type setup. Really nice gi. So check it out, folks. Won't be disappointed.
Yeah, get a new gi. Yeah, get a new gi when you're ready to go back to training. All right. All right, broski.
All right,
I will talk to you later.
Good night. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Jiu-jitsu, when I hit you, then I split you.